Hello world, I'm Valini Leitch, a proud, queer, Black woman of Guyana. I am the Homophobia's Education Coordinator at SASOD Guyana. SASOD Guyana is Guyana's premier LGBTQ human rights movement. And guess what? We're celebrating our 17th anniversary. Today, it's an honor to be a part of this historical moment across the globe. But it would not have been possible without the support of my Caribbean family, as well as our diaspora partner and family member. He's no stranger to us. He's a pioneering Indo-Caribbean and queer Muslim human and immigrant rights activist, a native of beautiful Guyana, who now resides in New York, and he's the founder of the Caribbean Equality Project. He is none other than Mohamed Amin. Mohamed, take it away.
Thank you, Valini, for that beautiful introduction that I provided. We are celebrating global gay Black Pride. What a historic moment it is for us to be uplifting our queer and trans Black community as we are in this intersection of pride and the BLM movement around the world. I want to welcome all of our panelists. We are going to be talking about pride and what pride looks like in the Caribbean and also in the diaspora. As Valini mentioned, I am Mohamed Q. I'm the founder and current executive director of the Caribbean Equality Project, and we are based in New York City, proudly advocating for our Caribbean LGBTQ immigrant voices. I'm going to start with one question and it will follow by an introduction. So please introduce yourself, tell us about your work, and share your first Pride experience. And I'm going to start with Jassica.
Hi everyone, happy Black Global Pride. It's absolutely a pleasure to be on here. So I'm Jassica from the lovely island of Saint Lucia. I'm currently the founder of Saint Lucia Pride, 758 Pride. I have been an activist for over 10 years in my beautiful country, fighting for the rights and advocating for the rights of LGBTQI persons. Currently, I sit as the Caribbean rep on the ILGA World Board, previously the Women's Secretariat with ILGA, and my love and passion lives in my heart for the rights of LGBTQI persons, and I will continue to do as long as I live. Thank you.
Thank you, Jassica. Jassica, tell us about your first Pride experience.
Last year, we started Saint Lucia Pride. In 2019, we started first year. It was surprisingly a successful first year for us. We had a bit of hiccups, of course, the backlash from the public, the general public. It was a total negative chaos. But what was surprising is that a lot of the tourism industry came on board. A lot of the hotels came on board because for the tourism industry in Saint Lucia, this is our main market, and over the years they have found that a lot of their clients come from the gay community, and for them they see it as an opportunity to embrace Pride and to make it part of the tourism industry, so that the visitors can come knowing that Saint Lucia is probably a safe place where LGBT persons from all over the world can come. However, in the Caribbean, the laws still discriminate and all that surrounds all the victimization, discrimination surrounds the Caribbean, including Saint Lucia. So we're not accepted in the Caribbean, but having a Pride in Saint Lucia in the Caribbean is an opening to know that it's an avenue where persons can come and probably feel safe. And last year, the police, of course, was on board with us 100%, and that was our main concern, a lot for our community members as well. That was the main concern for them, having the security, being able to feel safe. And I remember at the last minute, 4:30, left my office, went up to police headquarters, and they told me, Miss St. Rose, your papers are ready, your approval is given, everything, because we had an activity. We did not have a parade. It was the first day, and our members felt that it was too soon to have a parade if they did not feel safe enough. And of course, it was our first year, so we wanted to test the waters, and we assured them that we were going to make it as safe as possible. So what we did, we had a Pride health fair. They health fair in the boulevard in the city in Castries. So of course the traffic police we blocked up the whole boulevard area, and when I went to collect the papers, they told me that it was ready. My approval was given to have all of this. And also the city mayor was on board. They gave us the boulevard for free. They gave us the tents. They supported us in that way. And when I went, they told me it was ready. And when I got there, they told me that the police commissioner still has the documents. And I'm like, why? It was like, why you told me it was ready? So, because I was up and down police headquarters that whole week, making sure that everything was properly set. And when I got it, saying that the police commissioner still has my documents, I said, but I thought it was signed. And surprisingly, the one of the police women, she came and she said, no, Miss St. Rose, we're on board with you. We just want, commissioner wants to make sure that we have enough police, we have enough guys on board before anything is given to you. But the approval is there. He's just making some calls to make sure that everything is set. And the next day, and I felt so happy. I felt like, wow, this is progress. This is like, we're going somewhere. And I know we've been given, the police have not been very cooperative throughout the years, but that in itself, that shows that the work that we're doing is going somewhere. And when we were the following day, we were the Saturday, we were in the Boulevard in Castries, and the police came out in the numbers. And that for us, that in itself, and our members, they attended more of the other events because it was more of an enclosed area and it was not very open. However, the Pride Health Fair was open to the public, walking through the streets, seeing what's happening. A lot of our members said, okay, we will come support, but they still felt like it was too much in their face, like persons out there. So, but the fact that the police was there, we felt very supported and all that. So all in all, it was a great year, great first year. Our activities went smoothly. Persons were eager, persons were excited, and it was great. It was good. Very, very.
Thank you, Jassica. And that's progress, right? That's what progress, that's what visibility, that's what resistance looks like for our communities in the region. And next, I'm going to pass it over to Suelle. Introduce yourself, share a little bit about the work that you do, and also share your first Pride experience with us.
So my name is Suelle, like Sue with an L.
Suelle.
Right, Suelle Anglin. I'm from Jamaica, living in Kingston. I work at JFLAG. I am the Associate Director of Marketing, Communications and Engagement. And we have been doing advocacy at JFLAG for 21 years now. We have been doing Pride secretly over the years, from in the 80s, actually, but we celebrated our first public Pride in 2015. I think Pride in Jamaica has grown tremendously from the first Pride that we have. I think just like the number of events, the kinds of events that we kind of did. I think our first public Pride in 2015 was a little bit safe, our events and the venues were, very safe, in very safe areas. But I think over the years, I think we have just grown tremendously. I mean, now our news about Pride Week is all over the media. Our venues are now a lot of big mainstream venues, so we're just out and about everywhere. And I think just the kinds of reactions from different people right across the society in Jamaica, I think there's a lot of progress that's happening. In 2018, we had our first dancehall artist perform at the Pride Breakfast Party, and in 2019, we increased from 1 to 3 performers. So we see a lot of growth happening in different spheres in Jamaica. My first Pride experience was a little before I started working at JFLAG, which was 2015. I went to one of the events that they had there, and it was like a party that was held at Hope Gardens. And, like I said, it was very kind of low-key-ish. The place was, very covered, there were high security, that kind of thing. But once you enter the space, it just felt like an out-of-body experience. People were just out and about. There were rainbow flags on the stage everywhere. People were dancing on them head top. People just broke out. And it just felt like it was almost like time froze for me. And I think that was when I was like, I want to be a part of what's happening here, I want to be involved. I want to volunteer. Whatever I need to do, I want to be on board. And That was 2015, and a couple years later, I'm now leading Pride in Jamaica. So a lot of growth happening personally and, just on a bigger scale.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So next we're going to Susan. Susan, tell us about the work you do in Suriname and also tell us about your first Pride experience.
Hi, everybody. My name is Susan Doorson. I am the chair of WomenSWay Foundation. WomenSWay Foundation is the only LBQ team and focused organization in Suriname. WomenSWay was started in 2008. So my first Pride experience was in 2011 when we had our first Pride-related event. I'm putting it between brackets because it was not called Pride Death at that time. The name then was just coming out day, so we had it on the 10th of October in 2011. We had a parade, and that was the first, actually our start of what we are celebrating now as 10 years Pride in Suriname. So we've been doing that for every year annually in the month of October. So we grew from one day to a week, then we had coming out week, and then we've had coming out week for I think about 5 years, and then we went to Pride month. So we had the whole month of October from the 1st till the 30th of October filled with activities. We had movie nights, we had the embassies on board, we had all the hotels on board putting out rainbow flags. So we've really grown like tremendously compared to 2011 and 2020 that we're in now. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, we can't celebrate Pride this year. And that is for us a big bummer, but I am so happy and so fortunate to be here celebrating Global Black Pride with all of you. And that's like the most amazing thing that happened this year. So yeah, it's an experience in itself. I mean, the organization itself has grown tremendously along with the community. Like the first time we had the Pride Walk, Pride Parade in Suriname in 2011, we only had about 150 people walking the parade. And last year we counted about 1,500 people walking the parade. So it was like people with their families. It was all the embassies and their workers walking with us. It was CEOs of companies with a few of their members, because we've also introduced this thing called Workplace Pride in 2014. Mm-hmm. That was also the year that WomenSWay Foundation hosted the Sexual Diversity Conference for Women in Suriname. And that same year, we had Workplace Pride introduced, and that's like, for example, getting companies on board that can assure us that all the people working there, if they were to be LGBTIQ+, they would have a safe space to work in, they would be treated equally, they would get equal pay, they would get equal health insurance, and it would not matter if they have a different sexual orientation than heterosexual. They would just be treated equally if they worked there, if they were employed there. And starting from that, we have grown, and we now have 125 registered companies in Suriname who abide by Workplace Pride, who abide by the rules, who change their legislation in their work documents, so that if you have a partner who works at one of those companies, your partner gets insured also. So it's amazing. We've grown, and I'm happy, and we're gonna keep growing because there's a lot more work to be done. We're still dealing with this discrimination and all the messy and nasty things around that. So we can't give up now. Even though we've come so far, we cannot give up. So we're not giving up. We're here and we're doing it.
You're so right. We're not going to give up. And it's 2020 and we're still rioting, right? Pride is still a riot. So I would love to, Valini, tell us about the work you do with SASOD. Tell us about your very first Pride experience, whether it's in Guyana or not.
What I do at SASOD as the Homophobia's Education Coordinator, basically my role is to change the hearts and minds of Guyanese people towards the LGBTQ community. As you all are aware, Guyana is still one of the few countries that holds on to very archaic laws. On November 13th, 2018, we were able to have the cross-dressing laws struck down. I must say though, we are way better than we were a decade ago. We are making strides and things are getting better. As for me, my first pride was in Surinam in 2017. I was in total amazement as to what, the freedoms the Surinamese had, and we cannot, as the LGBTQ community in Guyana, enjoy these sorts of freedoms, being able to fly your rainbow flag, being able to be your authentic self, not knowing that in 2018, Guyana would have been the first country in the English-speaking Caribbean to host the first Pride Parade. That was a nostalgic moment. I remember putting on my Pride t-shirt, even though I was not a part of it. I was away at the OAS at that time for the General Assembly. But when I got back, my colleague gave me my Pride t-shirt and I wore it. I felt proud. I felt free to know that a decade or so ago, you could not have been your authentic self. You could not even say, I align with the rainbow, not because it's the rainbow, but because of who I am. To now be able to wear a t-shirt that says Guyana Pride Festival, it's amazing. And I am of the firm belief that it will only get better. For us, we have the support of the police when it comes to our pride parades. Over the past year, we've been talking with corporates and some ministries, the Ministry of Social Protection. They collaborate with us to do our Pride Interfaith Forum. We've been in talks with the Tourism and Hospitality Association of Guyana to have the Guyana Pride Festival on our national calendar of activities. All of this was bearing fruit before COVID came. You know, our challenge in Guyana is dealing with the right-wing conservative Christian community, but we are making some inroads. We are managing to change some hearts and minds in that area. So yes, that's it from Guyana.
Amazing. I have to say, I remember watching the live stream of Guyana's first parade. And I was so emotional. Like, you know, just being Guyanese, being in the diaspora, there were moments that I wanted to be there. And I was so proud of my community. I was so proud of people living fearlessly in defiance of homophobia in Guyana. And I still continue to look at those videos whenever SASOD shares it as a reminder. And I said, wow, look how far we've come as a Guyanese community. But even our Guyanese folks in the diaspora are still celebrating with y'all.
Yes.
For myself, Pride in New York City is different from in the Caribbean, right? We started celebrating Pride about 51 years ago. And this movement was started by Black and Brown trans women, Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. But our Caribbean community only started to organize and create visibility in 1998 with the very first big truck, which was founded by Colin Robinson of CAISO. And at the time, Colin was living in New York City, living in Brooklyn, and he said around a kitchen table, let's put a truck in the People's Parade and let's play soca music and bring our community together. And that's exactly what Colin and other organizers did in 1998. To the point where NYC Pride awarded the big truck the Best Sound Award. It was quite significant for the community in itself, but quite historic for Caribbean LGBTQ folks in the diaspora. And last year at World Pride, Caribbean Equality Project honor the legacy of the big truck. In New York City, every single year, there are always multiple organizations that's a part of the big truck celebration. And it started with Colin Robinson, who founded Caribbean Pride, and it was passed down to other organizers to continue that legacy, which includes Chutney Pride. And then now it's being passed down to the Caribbean Equality Project to continue the legacy of the big truck. Caribbean LGBTQ folks have been officially and formalizing and organizing around Pride for over 22 years in New York City. As an organizer and as an activist, my first Pride celebration was in 2010. That was the first time I said, you know what, I'm gonna go to Pride. I was not out, I was scared, but I know I wanted to be with my community, and I joined the big truck. And it was my first time seeing so many Caribbean LGBTQ people dancing and celebrating all of their diversity and everything that makes them so intersectional, including our culture, through music and carnival costumes. And, you know, folks were wearing like saris, and there were folks wearing like dashiki prints, just celebrating their Indo and Afro-Caribbean culture on Fifth Avenue. And from then to now, last year as we celebrated World Pride in New York, we coordinated one of the largest Caribbean LGBTQ contingent that have ever marched down Fifth Avenue in New York City. So Pride has always been a very emotional experience for me, because I always think of so many of our brothers and sisters who did not get to experience Pride, who did not get to live their authentic selves. And I think of those who are still prideful in the shadows, those that are watching us on social media and pledging to themselves that they too will come to Pride one year. And I always think about those folks, and I used to be one of them. In some ways, I'm still one of them, because I'm still organizing to create these spaces. And now we're doing it all together on a global platform. And this is what Pride looks like for us as Caribbean people in the region and in the diaspora. So I want to continue with our questions. And so the second question really talks about the evolution of Pride in your country. And I know individually you all mentioned a little bit about that, but I would just like to go around one more time to talk about what that evolution has looked like, starting with Jassica.
Okay, thanks for that question, Mohamed. Well, it was, I think, after Barbados Pride, I think Barbados' first Pride, Kenita was the one who actually, because I always had that discussion trying to say, you know, we should really try to do a Pride, and persons were still a bit very hesitant because of the atmosphere, of course, in Saint Lucia as it relates to LGBT persons. And then I always felt that, you know, it can be done. We can do something. It doesn't have to be on a large scale, but we can do something. And, you know, I would go into talks with Kenita, and then she said to me one day, Jassica, why don't you make this your baby? Why don't you make this a project of yours? You know, I know you could do it, because Kenita's always the type, you know, to push me and everything like that. I said to her, okay, you know, and then figuring out how am I going to put it together, who am I going to tackle, and, you know, what avenues to go into and whatnot. And eventually, I spoke to Maria, who's now with ECADE, Maria Fontenelle. I said to her, hey, I have this idea that I want to put Pride together, but I want to put a good team together and whatnot. So I want some people to come on board with me and so forth. And this is how it all started. And then I traveled, I think I was somewhere, some conference or something. When I came back, it was, because I had the date in mind. I had the month, because I was trying to figure out, okay, we want to do it summertime, but there's also Carnival in July, and there are also foreigners, a lot of foreigners, because our Carnival is growing a lot in Saint Lucia right now. So a lot of foreigners are going to be on island. So we want to have it like when persons are still here during the summertime. So we said, okay, August time would be okay. And then we did, so when I got back, I got back from traveling, and then I started to put it together, and everything was just like, time was just coming, and the adrenaline rush was like, oh my God, is happening. Like, you just can't believe that is really happening. And I remember as I was in Trinidad at UWE doing a course with CEDAW, and Maria sent, because I was in communication with my team every day while I was in Trinidad at UWE doing this. And Maria sent me a message saying, hey, the Saint Lucia Tourism Enhancement Fund, this is the umbrella under which all the hotels fall under. It's also associated with the government, but it's more or less like an independent organization that runs all the tourism, the hotels and stuff. And she said that they want to meet with us. Our proposal was accepted, and the board wants to meet with us because we proposed to them for funding. It was actually a hotelier who I went to, and he decided to make a call, boom, bam, in his office right there. And the president of the Tourism Enhancement Fund, she was like, sure, no problem. I would love to be on board with this. I think this is something very important. And she was like, guys, my hotel, because her hotel is one of the world's renowned wedding destination hotels. And she said every year she gets over 400 requests for same-sex marriage. So if she can come on board with that, and she said to us, listen, the government has all the stats, everything, they know everything. It's just that, at the end of the day, they can only give the stats, they can only push it, but it's up to the government, to the cabinet to make those final decisions as to changing those laws. And then she was so happy, she was so ecstatic, and she said, yes, send in the proposal, I'm going to go ahead with my board, I'm going to look for it. And while I was in Trinidad, Maria saying our proposal was accepted and they want to meet with us. And I was so nervous. I was like, okay guys, I need somebody to please go to this meeting and do whatever you can to get tourism enhancement. Yes, our proposal, but we need some funding, we need some help. So please guys, I'm not there, but I'm trusting you. And they went to the meeting, and after that, I was just getting messages and tears were just coming down my eyes. I was like, yes, Jassica, we did it. They were committing $10,000. The hotels on board with the food and everything. And that just gave me all the hope, all the excitement, everything that I needed to come back to Saint Lucia and get things done. And this has been the growth. This has been the evolution of our Pride in Saint Lucia. And of course, we had the British Commissioner, the British High Commissioner Office was always on board with us, supporting us. And they also came on board along with the Cashew City Council, the mayor, the police, our makeup artists, our food people. That was the evolution. And we had a number of activities. We had a weekend of activities. We had an opening night party. We had a panel discussion and media presentation. We also had the fair, and we had the boat ride that everyone looked forward to, the amazing boat ride, Rainbow on the Sea. That's where I think this is where our people get to get loose. We're away from everyone on the waters, and this is a staple event that we, of course, they're already asking, are we going to have a boat ride this year? So, it was just an amazing moment, and knowing that this year we can look forward to it, although with times of COVID, we had to make some changes, of course, but it has been a great evolution, and I know the other islands have experienced that same enthusiasm, that same pride, knowing that the growth of pride has developed over the years for each island differently, but of course it's the same feeling, I'm sure, throughout everywhere. Yes.
Amazing. So now I'm going to go back to Suelle. So I know you mentioned earlier that Pride celebrations really started in the 80s in Jamaica. And obviously, some of those were very sacred and also in secret, right? Because that's how we keep our community safe. So I would love to hear more about the evolution from these secret Pride celebrations to where it is now being very visible and open in Jamaica.
So when Pride, and this really came about, we had a conversation with one of our founding fathers. His name is Larry Chang. He came back to Jamaica. So he left Jamaica in the 90s, and he came back for the first time in 2017. We thought it was very funny. He's very old, and we don't have a lot of access to the older folk. So, I came up with this great idea, let's have a sit down with Larry and just record him telling us all these stories, because a lot of people don't know a lot of these things. And so, when he came and he started talking, and he was, telling us a lot about a lot of the clubs that they had, like gay clubs back in the 80s. And in my head, I'm like, day clubs back in the 80s. Like people were partying, gay people were partying in Jamaica, and he's like, you know, let us do a road trip around Kingston. And so he started taking us around Kingston and showing us, you know, where a lot of things started, where just discussion about JFLAG started, and, you know, he was telling us about, you know, which parties were the hot parties and what hot parties to keep in your Kingston and downtown and all over the place. And so it went into the discussion about Pride, and, you know, he was saying that people have been celebrating Pride in, you know, their rooms, you know, in houses, in a little corner somewhere, you know, like where, like you said, in lots of secrecy. And of course that happened because there was a lot of homophobia, a lot of violence towards LGBT people here. I know he was telling us about, there was this club up in Stony Hill, like up in the mountains, like you're just driving round and round and round. And that's where people had to go to party, and that's like maybe about 40 minutes outside of Kingston. So imagine if you're coming from Ocherius or Montego Bay to go all the way up there just to be around, you know, people of your kind. And so when he was telling me about that journey, it was hard for me to imagine myself, for example, going that far just to party, because I'm like, no, we just have a Pride event. There are a lot of LGBT people here that have a lot of LGBT parties, like even though when it should not be happening, sometimes I get blast on WhatsApp about a party happening. And I have to be messaging people like, guys, it's COVID time, okay? But it was hard for me as a young person now involved in JFLAG and involved in the Pride movement. I just could not understand, like I could not picture what this was. And he got some very old pictures that he showed us, and there were like people on the beach, like on the trees, people were in like masks. There was like a total of people's head because they were so afraid of being visible. And it kind of made me so like excited to really like do work, and you know, to really like tell people about why these things are so important. Like people were hiding, like you got one day out of the year to be yourself, and you still really couldn't be yourself because you were so afraid. So you were still at a Pride event with a mask over your face or a towel over your face. And for me, you know, I try to imagine a lot of these old people that have died, and a lot of them died not having that opportunity like we had now to, you know, be out and about wearing our shirts that's, you know, big Pride in Jamaica shirts, or a shirt that says, you know, JFLAG or whatever. And it kind of makes me tear up a bit, because I'm like, I couldn't imagine living my life like that, and, you know, living your life in such fear, you know, constantly. And so that's where we're coming from in Jamaica. And even now when we are where we are, a lot of people are still very afraid. And so I think one of the important things that came out to us with COVID is the importance of making sure that our spaces are accessible, especially Pride, where a lot of people tie Pride with being visible. And we have to understand that spaces have to be created for people who are just not there on their journey, but they still need to feel access to this kind of love and, you know, this kind of brave, because that's what helps you to, you know, build your confidence up to say, you know, well, I'm just going to stop living in fear. I'm going to step out. This is what is. So I think it's important for us going forward that when we think about Pride, you know, even if a little live feed from your Pride event, so people can be in their rooms in the comfort of where they are, but still have access to these kinds of things. So that's a bit of what the journey has been like in Jamaica, where Pride is concerned.
No, thank you for sharing that. You know, Pride is still political. It's still a riot. It's still very emotional for many of us. And these emotions are very raw, right? There are the emotions that we feel when we see our community still struggling to be who they are and wanting to continue to fight to create affirming spaces for them to live their authentic selves and to join us in this world of visibility and liberation, because we're not all free until all of us are free. So I would love to hear from Susan. Susan, tell us about the evolution of Pride in Suriname and what that journey has been like.
Well, for us, I think it's one bad thing brought a lot of good things. Starting in 2010, one of the members of parliament, I will not mention his name because he's not worthy of mentioning his name, because till this day, he is the only member of parliament who openly said that all people who are not heterosexual should be rooted out, should be killed, and put on a burning staple and destroyed with root and stem. He said that publicly in the media. And I think that's when in 2010 we realized, hey, this is not okay for someone who's in parliament, who's there to represent the country, who has been voted on to represent the country. For someone like that with that much power to give a call to action for people to destroy people who are not heterosexual, that is totally not doable. It's not okay. So with the help of COC Netherlands, we then put up the LGBT platform Suriname. So that was the first kind of umbrella organization for all the other organizations like Suriname Men United, He and Him. Those were the pioneers. I mean, Suriname Men United was the first gay organization in Suriname, but it was like only dealing with men and gay men and their sexuality. So then after them in 2010, 2008, WomenSWay was like put into the organization platform, and we have Foundation He and Him. Those work with people living with HIV within the LGBT spectrum. So we then put all those organizations together, and we created the LGBT platform Suriname. And we vow to next year, in remembrance of Coming Out Day in October, we're gonna do something to be visible, and that's where we started our first Pride Walk, actually. So taking that with us and actually never forgetting the fact that the people we vote on sometimes might not have our best interests at heart. And that's why I always say pride is so political sometimes, because you cannot just take away that. Political parties never openly mention that they're going to change something, that they're going to work on laws that discriminate against our community. They don't say that publicly, but they expect you to vote on them. So that's why last year we started in Suriname to like really telling our people, listen to these people when they speak at their rallies, listen to what they say. Does it come close to what you want your life to be, or what the quality of your life should be in the next 10 years, 5 years, when they're sitting there in parliament making the rules, changing stuff that's actually not going to benefit your life or anybody's life for that matter, and it's just going to divide us as a people and not bring us together. So like actually this year I myself was running for parliamentary candidate, and I'm in the only political party in Suriname who had 3 openly gay people being candidates for parliament, and I was so happy. I felt so at home, and that was one of my victories this year, just being there and being represented for our community, even though I know that I'm very young when it comes to politics, but I know what I want. I've been doing social work my whole life since I was 17, and I know how it feels to not be accepted and be discriminated just by something that you can't choose. It's not like I woke up one day and thought, oh, let me switch on the gay switch and be gay so everyone can hate me, everyone I care about can like resent me. That's not what happens. So it's something you can't control, and for people to be bullied, discriminated, violated for something that they can't control, who's just something that's just a part of who they are, that's totally unacceptable for me. So I think that's also one of the reasons why I'm still doing the work that I'm doing. And it's really been changing. A lot of younger LGBTIQ plus people have been coming out and they're so vigilant. I am so proud of them. They are so vigilant. They're out here walking hand in hand, not even getting bothered or even think about being bothered by something that someone's gonna say. They out here going to heterosexual parties with their girlfriends, showing off, being fine as hell. I am so proud. And coming from a space where you could not do that, you would just get bullied by even if you are a male in Suriname in 2010 and you would, like, for example, feel comfortable in female clothes and wear female clothes, you would get bullied and beat up. That still happens till this day, but not in such large numbers as it would in 2010. So that for us is progress. Of course, the ideal is we want it not to ever happen again, but we still have a long way to go. So we're working internally with our community to help them be resilient and work outside to create awareness and create safe spaces and teach people how to go about and and for example, in WomenSWay Foundation, we focus on the mere fact that everyone is equal and that everyone deserves to be free and have their own space, regardless of your sexual orientation or gender identity. If you're a person and you live in this country, you need to be able to do what you need to do without getting bothered. That's just it.
Amazing. Thank you for that. And yes, Pride is being elected, right? Pride is making sure that we are in office creating and changing legislation that benefits all of us. So yes, Pride is being elected. So now, Valini, I would love to hear about the evolution of Pride in Guyana. Tell us all about those secret parties that SASOD have been organizing.
Oh, wow. So, SASOD, well, I should start 17 years ago. What we are doing now, it could not happen. The LGBTQ community was basically underground. You know, Guyana is still a very conservative society. And the fact that you could not have been your authentic self then to where we are now, we have moved. We have made tremendous strides. 17 years ago, we could not even think about mentioning LGBTQ, much less Pride in Guyana. Some sectors of society still strongly denounce that we are here. We are part of the Guyanese population and so on. But over the years, with blood, sweat, and tears coming from SASOD Guyana, we have worked for change. We have gone through personal attacks, physical attacks. Our managing director, Joel Simpson, brutally beaten, to cyberbullying and cyber attacks. We have made strides when it comes to policies and laws per se. We could not have been openly gay and working in certain organizations. We are now seeing this change. Just before our country went into a no confidence motion, we were on the verge of meeting with a few parliamentary select committees. We were engaging them to talk about the amendment of the Discrimination Act of 1997 to include sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. SASOD Guyana met with the Minister of Legal Affairs and Attorney General, the Honorable Basil Williams, who tasked us with developing the white paper for it to be tabled in Parliament. I must say our consultation process went well. Everything went well. I, being a part of it, was overjoyed to know of the kind of support that is there for us, but a lot of it is secret on the ground support. You know, we would hear things like, we have your back, but we just can't come forward. Focusing on Pride, SASOD in 2017 had Pride events, and before that they had Pride events, but it wasn't public. A Pride parade, no. So when we decided in 2018 we were going to do this, we had serious backlash from the Christian community. Some sections of the evangelical community said we should be placed on an island and just left for dead. The Georgetown Christian Fellowship took out full-page adverts in all the dailies detailing why we should not have a pride parade. And I'm happy to say 2020 was going to be our biggest pride parade yet. We still, our challenge is education, lack of understanding our community, and what I find over the years and evolving, the more persons are educated about the LGBTQ community, what we stand for, that we are as much citizens as any heterosexual person. We pay taxes, we are a part of government, we are part of the arts, we are here and we are everywhere. We do our due to society. Why can't we enjoy the same things? We are not asking for special rights. We're asking for human rights, like any other person. So looking at where we were to where we are now, to being able to have a grand time in the streets, walking from the parade ground to the revered Square of the Revolution. For me, it's a statement. For SASOD Guyana, it's a protest. It's to say that we need you to hear us. We need you to listen to us. We're not asking for anything special. Happy to report that over the past 2 years, we have seen support from the diplomatic corps. We have seen support from some members of the religious community. Surprisingly, the some parts of the Islamic community in Guyana embrace us.
Mm.
You know, they say we are one, we are all humans. This year, before COVID, we were expected to paint our very first rainbow crosswalk. We hope we will be able to do this in
Amazing.
Yes. So when you look at, oh, I could not dress, I could not be my authentic self, to being able as a trans person to live your truth. We still have discrimination. We still have homophobic attacks. But I can say there are not as many as before. And it all comes with education. So as Pride evolves more, with more work put into it, with more education, I am happy to say that in the very near future, we will be able to proudly hoist the Pride flag alongside the flag of Guyana.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, to answer the question, for myself, Pride has evolved for our Caribbean LGBTQ diaspora community. Many of us are still living in the shadows. Many of us tend to only come out during the Pride Month, and we don't oftentimes come out to other events. It's still about education. You know, New York is home to the largest population of Caribbean immigrants outside of the islands in South America. And with that also includes homophobia and transphobia and biphobia that we have inherited and we have brought with us. And that's also a part of our colonized background. And as we do with the Caribbean Equality Project, a lot of our work is rooted in education. A lot of it is also educating our allies, immigrants in this country, on the laws, the human rights laws that protects LGBTQ people. In 2013, my brother and I and my siblings were involved in a hate crime incident in Richmond Hill, Queens, which is named Little Guyana because it has the largest population of Indo-Caribbean people and also Afro-Caribbean people. And Brooklyn, there's also a Little Caribbean in Brooklyn, which also has a large Caribbean population. But in my brother incident, it was the first time that this vibrant Caribbean community was forced to acknowledge that homophobia exists within within the Richmond Hill community, within the Little Guyana community, that so many of us are so proud to celebrate our culture and our music through food and cultural celebrations and, like Pagua. These are all events that we are preserving in the diaspora. But so many people were still preserving homophobia. So many people were still practicing this homophobia. They were still attacking folks in the streets. Street harassment was still very much prevalent in New York. And from 2013, my brother and I went to an organization called the New York City Anti-Violence Project. And we didn't know where to go for support. There was no legal support for us. There was no counseling for us. There was no upliftment of this story. And there were organizations in New York, such as the Indo-Caribbean Alliance. There was also the Jahaji Sisters, Sadhana. These are all Indo-Caribbean-led organizations that rallied behind this incident to raise awareness of homophobia, but to also speak out against it. And we led the first peace rally in Richmond Hill. And that was the first time that this Indo-Caribbean community, this Caribbean community, ever talked about homophobia in such a very public way. It made headlines. When my brother was attacked, my parents were visiting Guyana at the time. And we were one, he was hospitalized. Two, we didn't even know how to tell our parents. Our parents called us saying that they saw on the TV in Guyana that my brother Zaman was attacked in New York. Like, that's how they found out that their child was attacked in New York City. And it really wrecked us. It wrecked our sense of safety in public. It wrecked our comfortability in being who we are, continuing to fight to be visible in New York, where so many rights exist. But within Caribbean communities in New York City, homophobia is still very prevalent. Our queer Caribbean communities are still being attacked verbally. We're still hearing Caribbean slurs like Batiman and Chichiman. These are terms that are still very much prevalent in New York City. So the work that I do right now, in 2015, we launched the Caribbean Equality Project. And for the past 5 years, this is our 5th anniversary. And for the past 5 years, we have been working tirelessly to create visibility, to create safety, to create programming that's not only educate our LGBTQ community, but to also educate our allies on how to be better allies and what that looks like for us. Not to just be allies with us during the month of Pride, but to be allies year round when we are not even present in physical spaces. When we're being attacked, we also expect our allies to defend us in our absence. So I think a lot of the work that we do right now collectively, including this global panel, is to talk about what visibility looks like, what acceptance looks like within our own movements, but also within our households, within our small circles of community members that tend to stick with each other. And I think that leads us to the future of Pride, right? And as we know, Right now, the global coronavirus pandemic has sort of forced us to reimagine what Pride celebration looks like in 2020. And this last question, I would love to hear from all of you about what does Pride look like in your country? What does it look like in 2021? And what does it look like in the future? So I will start with Jassica, and then we'll continue.
Okay. The future of Pride, I would say, will continue in Saint Lucia as long as we have the voices, we have the hearts of the people to move forward, and the support, most importantly. 2020, we will be hosting Pride in Saint Lucia. That will be held in August 28th to the 31st. However, due to COVID, we will not be able to do everything that we want to do in person. So it's going to be a bit of both virtual and in person. In person only because the government have lifted off the curfew and some of the restrictions. However, we still need to follow the protocols established for COVID. So we can have an activity with at least 150 persons in a space. So we're gonna be having the activities. I don't wanna let everything out of the bag because my calendar is not out yet, but I can say it's gonna be very much fun, exciting, and of course very educational. Like Mohamed earlier indicated that, it's not always about the events and the partying, but getting the issues out there, getting the knowledge out there, letting the public know what affects and what affects the LGBT community and what we're doing to create that awareness, to put that education out there so persons can be more aware and also informed as to what the Pride Committee and also the organizations such as United and Strong and ECADE in Saint Lucia and regionally is doing for the LGBT community in the Caribbean region and Saint Lucia. So it's going to be, and also the fact that we're doing part of it virtually, it also encourages the persons in the diaspora, persons all over the world to join in on the Pride celebrations that are happening. Yes, we could have Guyana, we could have Jamaica, we could have Surinam joining, and all the Saint Lucians all over the world to join in on the Pride celebrations in Saint Lucia. So the future for Pride looks promising. We're hoping that with more work being done and with ECADE coming on board with the legislative review of the laws and everything that's soon to be going to the courts, that our government officials, they would come out and they would start to speak openly more about it, because like Vianney said, persons are supporting behind closed doors, but publicly we're not hearing those voices, and we have a very outspoken minister who has publicly indicated and outspokenly said that she does not support. She has at the OAS. I know Vanilli would know about that at the OAS every year, what we experience with her. So we want to be able to get that message out there and see the evolution of Pride, the future of Pride in Saint Lucia, and not just Pride, but for the whole LGBT community being one of a positive mode, a positive road down the line where our community would feel safe, would be able to, like Suelle said, have one day to come out and enjoy ourselves without the hatred, without the backlash from the public. I know it's always going to be there, but at least probably the future would give it a chance where it would not be so much with the changes that are expected to happen as the years go by. So the future looks bright, and we're just looking forward to this year. Our calendar will be out soon, hopefully next week. I'm just finalizing everything. Suelle, you will get that calendar soon. I know we have this thing going on, but yes, so calendar is going to be out soon. It's going to be both fun and informative, educational. Our members are super excited. We actually had an activity last week, just to get persons out there, because so long we've been indoors. So United and Strong decided to host a mixer, and that went super great. And that gave us, we knew on that from that event, we knew that persons are ready for Pride. So that we're going to push forward and give persons something good to talk about. I know the church is going to come down on us. Even last year, they held their own press conference. The churches had a press conference just because that they wanted to stop. They were like, this parade is not happening. And sometimes the media can twist things around, and we never said that we were going to have a parade. But once you have Pride, automatically you think that a parade is going to happen. And the media went along with that, and they used that opportunity to say, oh, we're going to have this parade, we're going to be, people from all over going to be in the streets, and the church came down on us. But that didn't deter us, and we know it will always happen. But at the end of the day, the future looks good. We're hoping that in time to come, government is going to come and speak out and tell us what is their stand, whether it's government in power now or not. But the future looks bright. Kenita is now on the call. I don't know if you want to add to that. But as I said, it looks great, and we're hoping that this year and more years to come, bigger and better.
Thank you for that, Jassica. The future of Pride in Saint Lucia is a revolution, and y'all are leading this. And also, yes, welcome, Kenita. Kenita is going to be delivering a keynote to us a little bit later on. But I would also love to have Suelle answer that question. What does the future of Pride look like in Jamaica?
So I think for us, the future looks bright. Like I mentioned, we grow every year. And I think one of the challenging things for me with planning Pride every year is I'm naturally a competitive person. So I always want to outdo myself every year. And so I think that is always good for Pride, because I'm always thinking, how can we, up the events? How can we make the events better? What do we need to add? That sort of thing. But I think just like the kinds of conversations, I think going forward, Pride now is a space where we try every year to make the centerpiece of Pride be that one critical conversation that we want to have. In 2018, it was about the conversation about bringing dancehall, which is normally a very homophobic space, and having that with Pride and kind of having that conversation of where does dancehall, as a big staple in Jamaica, and it's a very big part of us as LGBT people here in Jamaica. How do we kind of bring those two identities together? And so for Pride that year, all of the conversations kind of came around that, because the big centerpiece of Pride was the breakfast party and having the Angel as a dancer artist there. And then in 2019, we had different talks in the community, and then I found out that the big thing that people were kind of struggling with was talking about faith and religion, because then that is also a very homophobic space too. And so in 2018, we added the Out for Jesus event, and then in 2019, we brought it back, and so that event was the centerpiece of Pride. And so a lot of the conversations were, about LGBT people and faith, and does faith have a place in Pride? And we got a lot of discussion coming from people in the community, people outside the community. And so it was very important as the organizer of Pride to kind of allow the space for people to have that conversation and to let people in the community know, because a lot of them were very shocked that, we wanted to have something like this as a part of Pride Week. But there are a lot of Jamaicans here who still go to church and still want to practice faith. And so they also want a space in Pride to celebrate their faith and, to enjoy that space. And so it was important to keep having those very difficult conversations, to have them at a national level. And I think Pride gives us that sort of visibility and that kind of space to have those discussions. So I think going forward, we still want to keep having those political and those difficult discussions at the core of Pride here in Jamaica. And then of course, being in the fun part and, the nice and the dirty and the dance and the dash out. I think this year was very difficult for us. Gave me a lot of anxiety, because I was like, coming off of the high that we had last year, how are we just going to do things online? And, that probably not go nice. And what do we do? And so it was about, I think, in trying to put things together, I realized that from having the lives, from JFLAG's page and stuff and engaging the community, I realized that a lot of people were saying it was the first time that they were engaging us. It's the first time that they watched a live. And they feel so good, and they're really happy. They know can come on a live and talk about things and participate. And it made me think that this might actually not be a bad thing, because it has created this new kind of access that people have to these safe spaces which are online. Because now you can sit in the comfort of your room under your sheet. You can be in your car, you can just be sitting outside under a tree, and then have access to all these LGBT people online. You're talking to them, you're participating in discussions, you're giving input, and so you're doing this from the comfort of your home. And so I think Pride will be very special this year, because a lot of people who were afraid of going to a Pride event in a physical space because of whatever reason, you can now be a part of Pride, and you can have access to a space like this. People can watch this from Jamaica. I know all the different prides that were happening across the Caribbean. I made sure I shared them on the pages, and so people were in Jamaica watching Pride events in Guyana, in Trinidad, in Barbados. And I think those kinds of things are important, because outside of that, I would not know what a Barbados Pride looked like outside of pictures. And so I think COVID really gave us a blessing in disguise. And I think it's something going forward that we should always ensure that, whether it's just Pride spaces or different advocacy spaces, are now accessible to people who, for whatever reasons, could not be in a physical space. And I think a lot of rural people, for example, are often left out of these kinds of conversations, these kinds of spaces, because a lot of our events happening, the main city or wherever. And so these people now have access to us. And I think it's a good way for us to re-engage people from the community who we were never engaging before, and to just kind of keep that going. So I think Pride in Jamaica, our future is bright. I think my next goal at JFLAG is to get Pride as a part of the tourism calendar here, like we have, the Daydream and the Sumfest and those big staple events. My next challenge after this now is to kind of figure out, what do we need to do to get Pride at that particular stage in Jamaica? So our future is bright. We're excited. I'm very driven. I hear the progress happening in the other islands, and it makes me, excited. We also have the Caribbean Pride's website that will be launching soon, which is going to be another big part of how we'll be pushing Pride in the Caribbean to the diaspora and everywhere else in the world. So a lot of good things are happening, and I'm just excited. I'm very grateful.
Amazing. The future of Pride is digital. So I would love to hear from Susan. Tell us about what the future of Pride looks like in Suriname.
Well, to start off, in the essence of time, I'm going to do it real quick. For Suriname, I think we're going to keep going at the pace that we're going now, because we know that Surinamese people don't like rapid change. So we're trying to ease them into the change, ease them into the transition, because we also know that I think that's the only way that works now. Knowing your people, knowing your country, what actually your best strategy is to go forward. So we're going to keep it at this phase, but we especially need to focus on more creating more awareness. So having more visible campaigns, like countrywide campaigns, really going into the districts, because Suriname has 13 districts, and that's like a lot to deal with. So we need to go more into the interior, because we've had requests coming on to our Facebook page and Instagram asking for, when are you coming to the interior? When are you coming to the inlands? What are you going to do about this? How are you going to tackle this? So that's especially one point for us to look at. That being said, I think that the future for Pride for Suriname, it's just going to be marvelous. It's going to be great. It's going to be filled with unicorn greatness and glitters and all the fantastic things in life, because I know that the transition phase that we're in right now is only going to bring positive progress. It's like we're in the momentum phase where everything's just going to get a slingshot and go the positive direction, and we're so here for it and we're so ready for it. So that is one thing to be said. The second thing is we really need to get our legislation in check, because we still have laws that discriminate against LGBT people that work and pay taxes and their bills on time, and they work in the service providing sectors of this country, and we need to respect all the people in our country. So I think we really need to go for focus more on legislation and have that. But need to still find for us to go and talk to legislators about why are we tackling it, what can we do to help. So we've been trying to get like police on board. We've been giving them training on how to document and register violations that are being done against LGBT people. And I have to say that's one of the successes we've had throughout the past 2 years. So we're going forward with that, trying to keep Suriname safe, and at the same time, within the safety, just be prideful and have pride and be happy. Like, that's what the future should look like.
Amazing. Thank you, Susan. Yes, the future of Pride is definitely affirming human rights laws. We need to make sure that that's what the future looks like for all of us, whether we are in the region or living in the diaspora. And Valini, yes, tell us about the future of Pride in SASOD, and please give us all the secrets we need to know.
Oh, wow. The future of Pride for Guyana is positive, it's brilliant, it's bright, it's bold, and revolutionary. It's SASOD Guyana's dream for Pride and what it will be in the future. Not, yes, it's going to be our protest, our riot, but it's going to be a space not only for LGBTQ persons, but for all of Guyana to come and unite and to be a part of this rainbow. In terms of the legislative front, you know, SASOD is upfront and working hard. Things will only get better. Members of the community will only be able to live their truths and be their authentic selves. We are hoping that with the new dispensation, we will be able to continue our work. I must say, this is the first election that SASOD Guyana was able to host a LGBTQ human rights town hall, where we saw over 80% of the parties who contested the general and regional elections. They were there, including the two major parties. That was a big win for us. When smaller parties reached out to us, they wanted us to contribute to their manifestos, their constitution. They wanted to hear what this part of the Guyanese society had to say, what affects us. And with this, it says that we are doing something right. Our voices are being heard. When the politicians want to know what they can do for us. It is my hope that in the very near future, we see more persons from the community taking up active leadership and political leadership roles in Guyana. You know, so Pride is definitely here to stay. And for SASOD Guyana, I can say we are documenting it well, because when we would have handed or passed on the batons to the generation behind us, they must be able to say, well, our foundation is solid, it is set, and the sky can only be the limit from here on. So yes, Pride, 592 Pride is here to stay. It's only going to be bigger and better. This year, we had our virtual Pride. So we have already started planning for Pride 2021. But with some information from PAHO and WHO, what we've decided to do, we're planning for both a virtual Pride and an in-person Pride because of the uncertainties of COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
There is some speculation that we might not be able to have an in-person Pride in 2021, maybe not until 2022. So we are planning around that. We will continue to be the pillar of strength for our LGBTQ community in Guyana, because we not don't, SASOD, we just don't do prides alone. We provide a range of services.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so I am happy to say that we will only get bigger, brighter, better, and bold.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Valini. For us in New York City, the future of Pride is equity. We want to make sure that Caribbean LGBTQ voices are being heard, we are being seen, and we are being counted in the larger LGBTQ movement in New York. For the past 5 years, we have been hosting forums around faith. We have been hosting forums around visibility. We have been hosting forums around education, and all of it surrounds Pride. Pride for us is liberation. And our very existence in New York City as Caribbean LGBTQ immigrants are what we look at as resistance to a movement that is not meant for us. So this year, majority of our celebrations have been virtual. We did partnered with SASOD on the Diaspora Pride Party, and can I tell you, it was a good skin out. The girls and guys, everyone in between, love a good skin out, and it was amazing. We also hosted our Unchained program, our virtual Unchained program, which has created such an affirming space to talk about Pride, to talk about all of the intersectionality of what Pride represents. And we've been doing it for the past 5 years through Unchained, but for the first time this year, we did it in a very digital way, in a virtual space. And we were able to see community members from Guyana and Trinidad, places like Canada, also California, Florida, where Caribbean people live, were able to join us to wanting to be a part of these conversations. We also hosted several forums to unpack anti-Blackness and racism within our own LGBTQ community in the diaspora. And as we talk about racism, as we talk about, we do this through, our work itself is really done through a racial justice lens, but 2020 have forced us to think about this work and how it's being done in a very intentional way. And even this particular forum, the very first global Black Gay Pride, it's centered around Black voices. It's centered around racial justice. It's centered around equity in LGBTQ liberation. And that's for us in the diaspora what the future of Pride looks like. It looks like continuing being visible, continuing speaking out against hate, continuing documenting and reporting LGBTQ violence, continuing to have conversations with our mom and dads about how we love, who we love, how we present ourselves. It means unlearning homophobia and transphobia and anti-Blackness and racism. So Pride is intersectional. It's should always be done through a racial justice lens, particularly when it centers Caribbean Black and Brown folks, but it's also about our history. And a lot of that right now, we are working to curate Caribbean LGBTQ history in New York City through our Queer Caribbeans of NYC exhibit, which is the first of its kind in New York to document Caribbean LGBTQ stories, such as folks like Colin Robinson and Dominique Jackson and Kim Watson. These are all organizers and activists that have been doing this work way before me, way before Caribbean Equality Project. So we look at Pride as a way of now curating and archiving our history, as Valini mentioned, so the next generation could learn where this movement started, where we are today, and what they can now take and continue with in the future. And with that being said, I am going to welcome our keynote speaker, the leader of this panel, the one that coordinated all of us and brought all of us together. Please welcome Kenita.
Thank you so much, Amin. I mean, the discussion has been rich. I think understanding the roads that we have carried, understanding our different journeys, even bringing us into what has allowed us to speak up, to stand up, is also very much as relevant. And, you know, every day we think about the number of things that we deal with, and, you know, people seem to think that it's easy. It's not always easy. There is a lot that's happening in the background, the mental health of an individual, the status of whether the family support is there or not. How do you get support beyond family within the LGBT community, or even within other spaces that we call family? And this, when we think about pride and what it is to stand up, we can look at the word as itself in what pride is supposed to be, you know, the elevation of self-esteem, self-identity, and oneself, freedom of expression. And then we can think about the riot that pride has evolved out of into this beautiful celebration, again, still having to be a fight to really exist. And so today it is as much a pleasure from the point of view of being an individual who, through the loss of friends, had me to find my voice. And this leadership was not one that was taken by, you know, like most people say, you have an option or you push for it. No, it was simply mere circumstances that forced one to speak up and speak out. And as we look at the journeys that each island, whether it be Jamaica, who have gotten to experience pride for the last 20 years, or just hypothetically saying Suelle, or thinking about Saint Lucia, who just started a visible pride most recently, I think that is major because we learn from each other. And as brothers and sisters, as family across waters, it's what we're here to do, to motivate, to push, to create space, to allow a seat at the table, to create a seat at the table when and however possible. So I think those things, taking that into consideration, again, I just ask people as they continue their leadership, think through their own personal journey, but sometimes you also have to challenge yourself for your own bias, your own privilege, and just take it, not to limit yourself or reduce yourself or to edit yourself, but just to understand and take stock of reality of what exists for the people that you serve and reality for where you are. And peeps, sisters, brothers here, never apologize for your existence or for your achievements, because nothing we have today have been handed to us. We have worked for every single piece of it, and it doesn't come easy. It comes with late nights, it comes with commitment, it comes with tears even. And because people don't get to see those tears, don't mean that it doesn't exist. Don't forget your own humanity. And as we take it forward and we continue celebrating pride, I say, remember to be vigilant, remember to be safe, remember to ensure security is your first priority of self, of community, and whatever we choose to do, find some means of always remembering to celebrate you, to celebrate the existence, and to celebrate community, because somewhere behind it, there is always encouragement and support. And it doesn't always come from your blood relatives, but remember, each time we meet someone new, someone says sometimes, I trust the easy. But when I meet people, I accept them as family, and I accept them as, you know, trusted people until they lose that trust or they burn that trust. So unlike people that say it is earned and then whatever, no, for me, you get it 100% until you give me a reason not to. Everybody is different, but I would say continue what you are doing, because the only reason, quote unquote, there are haters and there are enemies and you see people want to come for you, like they say, is because you're doing something to ruffle feathers. So continue being amazing.
Thank you, Kenita. And I just want to say it has been an honor to share this digital platform, this digital space with all of you, not only to learn about your work that you're doing on the ground, which is so important, but to also uplift everyone that's a part of your movement. And with that said, happy Global Gay Black Pride. As we say in New York and at every single march, continue to live pridefully. We love you. We can't wait to celebrate Pride. Please follow all of the organizations that's represented to learn about their work that they're doing and to also support it, financially support it. Go back to Barbados, go back to Saint Lucia, go back to Jamaica, go back to Guyana. Make sure you celebrate and support. When I say support, I mean give money to these organizations that are doing this work. Their labor needs to be sustained. For folks that are watching who may not know how to connect with all of you, please take like 15 seconds and tell everyone how to follow your work, how to connect to your work, how to donate. Pride is about sustainability. Tell folks how to donate to the work that you're doing. I'm going to start with Valini. I'm sorry. Actually, no, I'm going to keep my structure. I'm going to go with Jassica.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that. Well, we recently launched all our social media platform pages. So we're all over social media at 758 Pride. 758 Pride on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and on LinkedIn. And also, you could also connect with us via United and Strong in Saint Lucia, also on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and also through ECADE, the Eastern Caribbean Alliance for Diversity and Equality. You could also connect with us via there. In terms of donations, we're in the process, like Suelle stated, we're in the process of forming the Caribbean Pride website where we will be able to accept donations from the world, the public, and also have items on sale from various countries and Pride organizations. So if you want to support Saint Lucia Pride and you want to get some items with the logo and stuff from Saint Lucia Pride, you can do that. And in turn, we would get that donation, Jamaica as well, Guyana, and the other islands as well. So this is one of the ways you can support. We don't have, for 758 Pride directly, we don't have an account as to where you can donate as yet, but you know, the Pride of Saint Lucia looks positive and bright, so that is going to be coming soon. We're still very young and growing, and I know the growth is going to come and it's going to happen. But in the meantime, you could reach out to us on all social media platforms, 758 Pride, and also with the coming of the Caribbean Pride website, you could also donate for there and we'll be receiving the funds.
Amazing. Thank you, Jassica. Suelle, how can folks support JFLAG? How can we connect with all of you?
So we're on social media at Equality JA on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. On our website where you can donate there is equalityjamaica.org.
Amazing. Thank you. And Susan, how can we learn more about the work that y'all are doing at WomenSWay? How can we donate? How can we follow to keep in touch and learn more about the movement?
So we don't have a bank account to donate as of yet, but what we do have is you could also always reach out to us via our website, our Instagram, our Facebook, our Tumblr. I think we're all over social media at this point. You can also get the number and WhatsApp us if you want to WhatsApp us for a more personal approach. You could always email us. It's on all platforms. It's WSWFSR Foundation, so WomenSWay Foundation Surinam. And that's if you want to get in touch with us. So I think that we're going to try to fix our bank account and get everything rolling so you can donate. But for now, I think your physical support is always welcome. So if you're in Suriname, if you drop and you have one day of leisure time, come and visit us. Just come and sit with us, come and chat with us. I will give you a splendid time.
Amazing. Pride is tourism. We need to make sure we visit our countries and celebrate with our community. Valini, how can we connect with SASOD? How can we donate?
Okay, so SASOD Guyana is all over social media. We even have a blog, at SASOD Blogspot. So we're on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, or you can add us to WhatsApp. Our number is 592-623-5155. In terms of donations, we are currently setting up a platform for that. In the meantime, you can reach out to our finance officer via email or via WhatsApp, or we're very responsive on our social media platforms. So that email would be finance@sasod.org.gy.
Amazing, thank you. And for us in New York City, folks can connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Caribbean Equality Project. You can also follow us on Twitter at Carib Equality. And all of this information is available on our website at CaribbeanEqualityProject.org. There's also a donate button. Hit that donate button, hit submit, give us some coins. We need to make sure we continue doing this work year round. And with that said,
happy Global Black Pride, everyone.
Happy Global Black Pride.
Happy Global Black Pride.
Happy Global Black Pride.
Yes, people, it is Black Pride here.